What up, witches?
I'm Candy,
And I'm Jen.
and we're the Cornfield Coven.
All right, as promised, today we're going to talk about Michael Klunder, or Klunder the Blunder, as I choose to think of it. And his whole existence was really just full of blunders. It's a total understatement. I get that, but it rhymes.
It rhymes.
It rhymes,
sounds...
so I'm going with it. There's not a ton out there about Michael Klunder's life and history, but I found what I could, and I'm reporting what seemed to come from several sources. So if some pieces are vague, I didn't want to misreport anything. Sources used for this information include the Taken Together documentary, which we relied upon pretty heavily for the Lyric and Elizabeth case. Court records, various articles from KCCI and the Globe Gazette. So, Michael Klunder was born on May 15th, 1971, in the tiny town of Kensett in north central Iowa, to Cheryl and Jimmy Klunder. His parents later divorced, and there were reports of him living with both parents at different points in time. In 1986, when he was 15, Klunder attacked a 15-year-old girl in Kensett. So they were both 15. But this is...
Okay.
And I don't know if there were other signs in his childhood. A lot of times with these, we see animal cruelty, that kind of thing. I couldn't find any reports on that. There was, nothing in the records. But when he's 15 years old, that's kind of when our story really starts. So because he was a minor, there's not a lot of information on that case or the victim, but he was convicted of a delinquent act by juvenile authorities. In the year and a half following this conviction, Klunder was sent to several Iowa facilities, including the Boys State Training School in Eldora, Meyer Hall in Des Moines, Bremwood in Waverly, and the Mental Health Center in Cherokee. And just a quick divergence here. Bremwood in Waverly was a residential treatment center for at-risk youth between the ages of 12 and 18. I know this because in a past life, I was a social worker and I worked at Bremwood for a few years.
Oh.
Yeah, I was a supervisor of one of the communities there. While at Bremwood, and Bremwood is closed now. They closed 2 years ago. I think. Anyway, not super important. But while at Bremwood, it is reported that Klunder ran away from the facility and was later found in Seven Bridges County Park and Wildlife Area, about 21 miles away. Now remember, Seven Bridges is where Lyric and Elizabeth's bodies were found. So he does have a connection to that place. And I don't know how he got there. He must have hitchhiked, caught a ride, knew someone who could take him out there. We kind of mentioned too, Seven Bridges is known to the criminal element. So, it's possible he was taken out there, to party, whatever. But we don't know. So he was found there. And around February 1988, Klunder was released and he went to live with his father and stepmother, I believe, in Mason City. A year later, so he's been out for a year, on February 22nd, 1989, Klunder showed up at the door of a coworker. He asked to use her phone, stating that his car had broken down. She offered to just give him a ride home. He knew, she knew him, and he accepted. But as they were walking to her car, he attacked her. knocking her to the ground and choking her to the point where she had visible injuries to her throat and was struggling to breathe.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Wow.
and he is about a month away from turning 18 at this point in time.
So he can't get tried as an adult.
He can. In March of 1989, it was determined that Klunder would be charged as an adult as he was only a couple months from his 18th birthday. And he had a history of assault. Because remember, this is his second victim already, and he's not even 18.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Blunder on the part of the Justice Department.
Wow.
So on May 17th, 1989, so a couple months after all this happened, Klunder, as part of a plea agreement, was sentenced to 7 years. 2 for the assault. 2.
Wow.
Only 2.
I wish people could see
He
my
knocked
face
her
right
to the ground and had his hands around her throat to the point that it left visible marks, and she was struggling to breathe. And he got 2 years because we don't care about protecting women and children.
Well, and she lived.
Yes.
So it's like, oh.
But they didn't even try, like, attempted murder.
Did he say?
It was just assault. And I'm sure it was assault with impeding airflow or something, you know, a heavier
was it like,
crime. But
oops, I tripped. And that's where my hands landed. Wow.
and then the other 5 was for a burglary that took place a few days prior to the assault. Yeah. So we've now got 3 very serious crimes that he has committed. And I'm not sure what the burglary entailed, because I believe the definition of burglary is entering... It's like entering a place where you don't belong with the intention of committing a felony. So it's not necessarily like robbery. It's like entering someone else's house and you intend to assault them. It's not always taking stuff. So whatever he did with the burglary, he got 5 years for that, 2 years for the assault, and this is all part of a plea agreement. And these 2 sentences were to run concurrently. So the maximum time he would have spent was 5 years. So then why? Like, I don't understand why we have sentences if we're like, we get 2 for this and 5 for this. But you can just do them together, honey. It's okay. It's not 7. It's actually just 5. Then just say it's 5.
Why? And then it irritates me when they combine it and then they're like, oh, but it's because he had good behavior. Yeah. Or something like that.
Oh, we'll get to that.
Because in jail and stuff, like, of course you're going to be on good behavior.
Right. And we spoke with Drew about that. And we'll get into it even more as he continues to rack up sentences and continues not to serve them.
Oh.
Of course, yes, you're going to be on your best behavior, not only because you want to get out, but because your victim profile isn't in there with you. There are no women for him to assault. There are no young girls for him to assault. He's not going to walk up and just assault a big guy because that's not who he is. That's not who his victim profile is. No. He's a coward. He's a, you know.
He wants somebody weaker than him.
How did Drew put it? They're weaklings.
Yeah.
So, yeah. My blood pressure is already up. So, it's not going to go down for the rest of the episode. So join me in my rage, will you please?
Gosh. I'm on the train.
So he was also ordered he was ordered into and completed a sexual offender program while in prison, because those work. He was released in 1991, so 2 years. He served 2 of the 7, actually 5, that he was supposed to. There are some conflicting reports as to exactly when he was released. I saw both January and August. But I think, and I'm not sure if this is correct, so please don't come at me, but I think that he completed the sexual offender program in January 1991, and then he was released from prison in August 1991. In December of 1991, Klunder was living in an apartment complex in Charles City, Iowa, and was working. He had a job. Okay. And so this is less than a year, again, after he's been released. On December 15th, 1991, Klunder was driving near Mason City, not that far from Charles City. It's like 40 minutes, maybe. Probably not even that, half hour. He flashed his lights to get a 21 or 22-year-old woman in front of him to pull over. Again, there were differing reports on if she was 21 or 22. Okay. Probably one was when the incident happened. The other was when the court case came about. But anyway, she's 21 or 22. He flashes his lights to get her to pull over. He told her that her taillights weren't working. When she got out of the car to check her lights, he attacked her, threw her to the ground, threatened that he had a knife, forced her into his car, and started driving. This woman thankfully survived. And then there's a couple of reports. We see this a lot. One was that Klunder got nervous when he thought a car was following him. And the other one is that the woman waved out the window at another car for help. But either way, Klunder pushed her out of the car and fled. So either he got nervous or she flagged somebody down. She reported the abduction and the assault to police, but she didn't know who he was. Oh. He was a stranger. So he was not immediately a suspect. But on the very next day, December 16th, 1991, Klunder abducted 2 3-year-old girls from outside his apartment complex in Charles City. 2 3-year-old girls. He grabbed them, shoved them in the trunk of his car, and drove about 50 miles to the area of Northwood, which is very near his hometown of Kensett. Wow. This is an isolated area, like an isolated wilderness type area. Very similar to where Lyric and Elizabeth were left.
Wow.
But he panicked. He found an isolated area there, dumped both the girls in a garbage bin. He put 2 3-year-old little girls in a garbage bin. That is leaving them for dead.
They're not kittens. I mean,
don't do that to kittens.
Yeah, but I mean, was he hoping that somebody would be dumpster diving?
I don't know. I can't imagine that he hoped they would be found. I don't think he had that in him.
No.
Thankfully, they were found alive several hours later. One girl, though, had been visibly choked. She had marks around her neck. One of the 2 little girls. Neighbors in the apartment complex immediately indicated to police that Klunder should be a suspect. When police talked with him, he became uncooperative and then he fled. A tip from a relative led to police finding him at a bus station in Houston, Texas, and he was extradited to Iowa. So they know they've got him on this. Now, the next month, in January 1992, the woman from the December 15th attack identified Klunder from a lineup, and it was announced that he was also a suspect in that case. So now they've got him on both. And now we're going to get into some technical legal jibber jabber because it's incredibly relevant to countless people's futures. In 1992, the definitions and sentences for kidnapping in Iowa were as follows. First-degree kidnapping is when a person is kidnapped and as a result of the kidnapping suffers a serious injury or is intentionally subject to torture or sexual abuse. This is a Class A felony and carries a mandatory sentence of life without parole. Okay, so that's first degree. They're kidnapped and they have either a serious injury or torture, sexual abuse. Second degree kidnapping where the purpose is to hold the victim for ransom or the kidnapper is armed with a dangerous weapon. This is a Class B felony and carries a maximum sentence of 25 years, and the convicted must serve 70% of the sentence before becoming eligible for parole. So, first degree is serious injury, torture, sexual abuse. Second degree is ransom or dangerous weapon. Third degree is all other kidnappings. This is a Class C felony and carries a maximum sentence of 10 years. Maximum 10 years. And no mandatory minimum.
Oh.
These definitions changed as a direct result of Michael Klunder, and we will get into how towards the end of our story. But for now, back to 1992, where Klunder is being charged for committing 3 kidnappings in 2 days. Klunder's trial for kidnapping and assaulting the adult woman began on April 15th, 1992. The woman who was attacked in this case did not suffer serious injuries. So it's likely that prosecutors felt they could not get a conviction on first-degree kidnapping. Second-degree kidnapping, because it's defined by ransom or weapon, did not fit. So all they were left with was third-degree kidnapping.
Oh.
The jury had the choice of convicting him on third-degree kidnapping with intent to commit sexual abuse, or the lesser charge of third-degree kidnapping with assault causing bodily injury. On April 17th, 1992, the jury convicted him of the lesser charge. I guess they didn't feel there was enough evidence that Klunder intended to commit a sexual crime.
Wow.
Yeah. On May 29th, 1992, Klunder was sentenced to 10 years for the kidnapping and 1 year for the assault, which was the maximum he could get for what he was convicted of.
Wow.
Yep, and we don't want to take into account the other horrific, violent crimes he has already committed. So a few months later, August 1992, Klunder reached a plea agreement with the courts in which he would plead guilty to third-degree kidnapping, and the first-degree kidnapping charges would be dropped. So this is the case of the 2 3-year-old girls.
Okay.
So instead of taking him to trial on first-degree kidnapping charges, they reached a plea agreement, and he would plead guilty to third-degree kidnapping on the 2 little girls, and that took life without parole off the table, and Klunder agreed to a sentence of 30 years. No minimum. So he's up to a total sentence of 41 years in prison right now.
Wow.
Yep. So here's a really fun thing. If you do not have a mandatory sentence, then 1.2 days comes off your sentence for every 1 day of good behavior. I'm sorry. What in the actual fuck?
When you take somebody's life, or multiple, where does it become acceptable to give rewards for good behavior? You did the most unspeakable thing.
Well, at this point, he has not taken a life. But
that's true.
He's committed
violent
crimes over and over, and every time he's released, he reoffends seriously within a year. And they're not taking that into account. For nonviolent offenders, absolutely do this. You know, drugs, whatever, you know, tax evasion, I don't care. You know, pull those days off. But for violent offenders, are you kidding? Why? If you are the type of garbage person who chooses to harm women and children, and there are no women and children in prison with you, of course you're on good behavior. I can't with this. So he does his time, completes his, once again, because it was so helpful the first time, court-mandated sexual offender treatment program. And after not even serving 19 years of his 41-year sentence, Klunder was released on Christmas Day, 2011. Now remember, Dan Morrissey received 90 years for drug charges and won't be eligible for parole for 30 years. Just as a reference. No violence there. And I might upset some people here. I'm not saying anyone should be manufacturing drugs. It's incredibly dangerous. I get that. But Klunder hurt people violently over and over. And there's just no comparison in my mind. There's just not. Not only that, he was on parole and did have certain restrictions, but because there wasn't enough evidence that he was a sexually violent predator and he had completed his sexual offender treatment program, he did not show any signs that there could be potentially further problems. That's a quote from Fred Scaletta from the Department of Corrections. He wasn't confined for outside treatment. There were no restrictions on where he could live. So, wait for it. After his release, he attended a semester of community college, got married, and moved with his wife to Stratford, Iowa, where he lived less than 500 feet from an elementary school.
See, and you're not.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, so he was released Christmas Day, 2011, like we said, went to one semester of community college. That didn't work out. He got married, started working for his father-in-law, living in Stratford, Iowa, and we are less than a year and a half later. May 20th, 2013 was a normal day for 15-year-old Kathlynn Shepard and 12-year-old Dezi Hughes. The two friends were very tight, joking on the bus together and spending a lot of time at each other's houses, which were very close. Dezi remembers laughing all the time with her funny, outgoing friend. But this day was not like any other. On this day, a monster in a red pickup pulled up to the girls shortly after they got off the bus, less than a block from their homes. This monster said his name was Michael and asked the girls if they wanted to help him mow some lawns for spending money. He actually gave his real name. He told them his name was Michael.
Well, because he's like, they're going to die, so I don't need to...
Yep.
I don't need to hide who I am.
Yes, I do think it was his full intention to kill both of them just because of that he gave his real name. So the girls said that they'd have to ask their parents first, but they lived close. They could head home, drop off their bags, ask for permission, and then they could go with him. So, Good job, girls. Dezi noticed right away that Michael was a big guy, 6'6", and maybe 250 to 280 pounds. That's a big dude. Michael offered to drive them up to their houses to get permission. So they got in the pickup. But Michael immediately started driving away from the girls' houses because now he knows, they pointed, we just live right up the road. So he started driving away. When they questioned this, he said there was a phone at the house they were going to, and they could just call from there and ask for permission. The girls became more concerned as Michael took back roads out of Dayton, farther and farther away from the town on gravel roads. When they arrived at their destination, there was no house, just hog confinement buildings and some sheds. Michael pointed to a shed where he said the mowers were housed, and the girls went to check it out. When they turned back, Michael was pointing a gun at them. He forced them to get on the ground on their stomachs and be quiet, promising to let them go if they followed directions, all the while zip-tying their hands behind their backs. Dezi remembers a moment that struck her as particularly odd. Michael stepped on her leg and she said, "Ow," just in reaction. And she says that Michael apologized and then rubbed her leg sympathetically, which makes me want to throw up.
And he's probably like, "Oh, I'm sorry." Like, I feel like a guilt thing. But then...
Like, he feels bad about that. Like, it was baffling to her. And, like, look at what you're doing to me intentionally, but you feel bad about accidentally stepping on me. Like, and especially looking back on it after everything that happened, like, you planned to brutally murder me.
But now all of a sudden...
But you felt bad for stepping on me? Like, what? He was just so off the rails. So after zip tying them, Michael set down the gun and pulled out a knife. Kathlynn began crying and said, "We don't deserve this. Just let us go home." Michael became very angry, seemingly because Kathlynn had spoken. He grabbed her up and forced her around the side of the building. Dezi remembers hearing Kathlynn scream her name and then go quiet. Dezi took the only chance she had. She got her arms in front of her, which is a feat. Can you imagine, like, if your hands are zip tied behind your back, getting them to the front of you, how difficult that would be? And she had seconds to do this.
Well, and was it like a fight or flight moment? And then did she like pop her arm out of the like? Oh my God, that poor girl.
So she got her arms in front of her. They're still tied. She grabbed the gun because he just left it laying in the grass next to her. And she took off running. When she got to the woods, she hid behind a tree and checked the gun. It wasn't a gun like we typically think of a gun. Okay. It was actually a captive bolt gun, which is used for euthanizing livestock. And it was not even loaded at that. So it's a thing that you put like a bolt in it, and you put it in the animal's brain to put them down in a humane way, I guess. You know, like quick, no pain.
Okay.
Type thing. But it was not even loaded. It didn't even have a bolt in it. And it wasn't something you could shoot from a distance. Like, it has to be pressed again. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to shoot the bolt out like it would shoot a bullet. It's like compressed air. So Dezi heard Michael realize that she was gone and yell, "Fuck," before getting in his truck and taking off. So she ran even deeper into the woods. She was only wearing a t-shirt and shorts. Her socks and shoes had come off running through the mud, and her exposed skin was torn everywhere from running through thorns. She could feel the blood running down her legs, but nothing compared to the fear that she felt. She was trying to find a house, someone to help, but she'd hear Michael's truck and then be forced further into the timber to make sure he didn't see her. She felt like she had been running for days, but she finally came upon a farm and she could hear people talking, so she ran toward them. Dezi was so upset, bawling and incoherent, the people could barely understand her, but they did realize that she needed to call 911. And the Taken Together documentary does have that 911 call, and it is absolutely devastating. Dezi conveys that she's worried, and then she asks for her mom, and then she says, quote, "This dude picked me and my friend up." She conveys that she's really worried about her friend, and then she asks for her mom again, like, "Can you get my mom?" It was just awful, just awful. The resident of the farm, Patrick Fairchild, gets on the phone and gives the operator their location. Patrick says Dezi was a sight when she got there. She was covered in scratches and blood. She was zip-tied. She was yelling and bawling that she'd been kidnapped. Patrick tells his friend, "Go get a gun. Go to the hog farm. If there is a guy there, keep him there. Don't shoot him, but do not let him leave." And I was like, fucking Patrick. Like, good job, Patrick.
He's like, nope.
Yes. So the friend came back a while later and said there was blood, but no one at the hog farm. So he saw blood there, but there was nobody there. And then he tried to drive around looking for the red truck, but he didn't have any luck with that either, unfortunately. Now, Nicholas Dunbar was the Dayton chief of police. He spoke to the owner of the hog farm, who confirmed that his son-in-law, Michael Klunder, drove a red Toyota pickup. Police showed Dezi a photo of Michael Klunder, and she was positive he was the man who had abducted her and Kathlynn. Dunbar went to Klunder's home in Stratford, about 10 miles away. Klunder was not there, but his wife had received a text saying, "I love you, I'm so sorry." So he's sorry
he confessed
to her.
That he's sorry that
He's sorry that he got caught, is what he is. Dunbar called in the DCI, FBI, and the Iowa State Patrol. Police began tracing pings on Klunder's phone, while Klunder's father-in-law began checking his other properties. And they found him. Michael Klunder, the fucking coward, had hung himself inside a machine shed on one of the properties. His pickup was there with blood on the tailgate, but no other sign of Kathlynn. Just, ugh. I can't imagine the disappointment they felt knowing this girl is out there somewhere and the only one who knows where she is killed himself.
Why couldn't he at least be thoughtful enough to add that to the note? Like,
to the text? No. Yeah, no. Because he didn't care. He did not care about what he had done. He only cared that he was going to face consequences. And he didn't want to. More than 100 volunteers and officers were searching on foot, in cars, on horseback, and on ATVs. Dezi was desperate to join the search for her friend, but was understandably not allowed to leave her house. I don't think I would ever let my child leave my sight again. Like, I'm going to college with you, sweetheart. Mm-hmm. You know, like, you better get a double dorm room because mommy's moving in.
Right.
So Klunder's phone had pinged all over a 40-mile area. That is a huge search area. So it was like he was just driving around with Kathlynn. The following day, the girls' backpacks were found in a ditch near Fraser, which made the authorities think maybe he'd been following the Des Moines River. Days passed, then weeks passed. They'd searched 250 miles. Finally,
wow.
On June 7th, 2013, after 18 days, Kathlynn's body was found in the river by a fisherman about 20 miles south of the hog farm. Kathlynn had been punched in the head, stabbed 27 times. Her throat had been slit, and her body had been wrapped in plastic. They did not release whether she had been sexually assaulted. I hope that she hadn't.
Right.
I kind of think probably she wasn't, only because he panicked and didn't have time to do everything he wanted to do. And, like, this guy is bad at this. I mean, he has been caught doing this multiple times.
Do you think he gets off by getting caught?
No. Because I don't think he would have killed himself if he did.
It's true. I mean, he gave, his real name.
Yep.
He brought them back to his home, or, his...
one of the places where he worked, his property, yeah.
And now a girl is on the run who knows what he looks like.
Yep.
Knows what he drives. Knows all this other information. And...
yeah.
It's a fear.
I don't think he wanted to get caught. I don't think he got off on that. And I think that's why he killed himself. I think he thought he was going to get away with it.
Wow.
Dezi was heartbroken. She was horribly depressed and barely able to leave her room. Kathlynn's father released the following statement. Today, our family has lost part of its soul. Not just the Shepherd family, but the families of Dayton and all of Iowa. An innocent, caring, fun-loving child was taken from this world long before her time. Our daughter was torn from our family and murdered. End quote.
That's sad.
Yeah. And at the time of the Taken Together documentary, Dezi really felt incredible guilt. She felt like she should have tried to save Kathlynn somehow, even if there was nothing she could do. She says it's hard to talk to Kathlynn's family because she felt like they hated her the way she hated herself. And it was devastating to hear her talk about it because it's survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
And it's just heartbreaking. She was just barely able to save her own life. And if she hadn't done exactly what she did, she'd be dead. She'd be gone. If she had done one thing differently, she'd be gone. So it's so hard to hear her feel such guilt on top of the trauma that she suffered and losing her best friend. Klunder was a blunder. He should never have been released from prison. Kathlyn's family advocated, and in 2014, Senate File 2201 was passed in Iowa. This added to the definition of second-degree kidnapping. Previously, remember, second degree only included ransom or dangerous weapon. Now, any kidnapping of a person under the age of 18 is second-degree kidnapping, which is a Class B felony and carries a 25-year sentence. So, better, not where I think it should be, but better. This file also states that a second charge of third-degree kidnapping immediately becomes a Class B felony. So if you have two of those, your second one becomes a Class B felony, which would have put him away for longer. Now, this kind of brings us back around and draws the parallels with the Lyric and Elizabeth case. First, and we've talked about this before, double abductions are incredibly rare. There have been 18 total in the U.S. since the 1970s. 3 of those occurred in Iowa. The 2 we know Klunder committed, Kathlynn and Dezi, and the 2 3-year-old children, and then Lyric and Elizabeth. Iowa accounts for 1% of the population of the U.S., but almost 17% of the double abductions. The ages were similar, not the same, but prepubescent or pubescent girls. Lyric and Elizabeth were 10 and 8. Kathlynn and Dezi were 15 and 12. There was also some mentions that in each case, there was one girl that was a little bit larger stature and one of a smaller stature. I don't really buy into that. If you're looking to abduct 2 girls at one time, I don't think you can be that picky. It's really got to be more about the opportunity, and to me, that just happened to be a coincidence. He disposed of Kathlynn and Dezi's backpacks by throwing them out the window. Elizabeth's purse was disposed of, thrown over a fence near where the bikes were left. Kathlynn's body was in a river. Lyric and Elizabeth's bodies were in a wooded area quite near a river. Again, this is a bit of a stretch for me. I think it's more about opportunity than strategy. But it does fit with isolated wooded areas. Yeah. And he did that with the 2 3-year-olds that he kidnapped as well. Pattern. We don't know how Lyric and Elizabeth were killed. That information is not being released, so we can't draw any comparisons there to the method with Kathlynn. And now for some connections to Evansdale. Klunder was in Bremwood as a teen. He did escape to the Seven Bridges area where the girls were found, so there is a connection. He did know about that area. Klunder was in prison with at least 2 men who lived in Evansdale after all 3 men were released from prison. The Taken Together documentary includes footage of Drew confronting these 2 men. Now, they gave varying accounts of if they were in contact with him, if they talked to him on the phone, had they seen him in Evansdale, whether it was around the time of the murders or not. It's all too much back and forth, and it's really shady to me to be relied upon. I don't think these are trustworthy people.
Right.
But whether what they said was true or not, it's absolutely a connection to the area. So whether he was there, whether they talked to him, whatever, okay. But he did know these 2 men who lived in Evansdale. So that is the for sure connection. And as we stated before, investigators stated in 2014 that Klunder had been ruled out of the Evansdale case based on location evidence, but later stated that no one could be conclusively ruled out yet. So I think we're still waiting on that. So from here, you can come to your own conclusions. For now, I am just hoping and praying something comes of the DNA evidence that we know is, being processed, and we'll find out something, because the coward killed himself. We're never going to find out from him.
Exactly.
I don't know. I think he's a really good look for it. But on the other hand, it would surprise me that he pulled it off.
Right? Because of all
Because
the
he's
times.
such a blunder.
Yeah. All those other incidents, and I agree. Unless that was the one fluke of luck where...
Yeah. It's possible, that the stars aligned for him and just no one saw what they should have seen that day,
Exactly.
Our hearts go out to the families of all of those impacted by this atrocious piece of shit. And especially Dezi. I just really hope that girl is rocking this thing called life. She deserves it.
I was going to say...
She deserves everything. I hope she wins the lottery every day.
The trauma that he put her through that day, but for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
She deserves so much goodness. It's just...
All right. So that's Klunder the Blunder. And now that I've sufficiently pissed off everyone listening, you're welcome.
I just can't.
Thank you for going on this journey with me.
Just the whole him taking his own life. Why? I get it because he doesn't want to go to jail. Blah 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 blah. But why can't you just be honest and leave a note of why or where?
Because he doesn't care.
I know.
He only thought of himself.
Well, and can you imagine his wife being married to somebody who had this double life? And
yeah, but how
you laid next to him?
Yeah,
you slept.
She didn't do anything, so I feel bad for her.
That's my thing.
But
I feel bad for her because
I also have to kind of wonder. She had to know about his past.
Yeah.
I hiding some things is one thing, but hiding 20 years in prison, where do you account for that time in your life?
Meet while he was in prison? Was she a pen?
I don't know. I couldn't find much about that, and honestly, she deserves her privacy. It's really none of our business. But
could you imagine?
No.
In our little small towns, you're known as...
Yeah, you would have to uproot your life and change your name, I would think. I don't know.
Oh man, I would be from a blonde to dark hair or a redhead, or from a dark hair to a blonde.
I would leave the country, I think. Because
Costa Rica sounds good.
And it's not fair because it's not her fault, but that's the way the world works. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be very difficult for her to continue her life.
Someone wants to let their rage out, and unfortunately, she's...
Yeah. So it's been 13 years. I don't know.
So in a way, she's another one of his victims.
Agreed. Yes. Yep. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for listening. And we will catch you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
All right.
Stay safe.
Bye, witches.